Talking about the women in Okpolupm, Etteh, representing Eket Oñna, Esit-Eket, Ibeno Federal Constituency, has launched an empowerment program for rural women. In partnership with the Nigerian Natural Medicine Development Agency, 100 women will receive training in snail and fish farming, and this initiative promotes food security, economic independence and medicinal benefits. It aligns with Governor Oñna's Arise agenda, boosting local agricultural productivity and self-reliance amongst women. How do you see this empowerment of women? We've had several empowerments when we talk about women, but how effective have these empowerments been, George?
First, as an economist, when I hear people talk about empowerment and empowering them by training them on a particular skill, snail rearing or whatever skill you want to empower them with, we don't look at it from a sustainable perspective. Okay. Now, empowerment goes beyond. First, let me commend the government for empowering those women, wonderful women, with this snail farming. Because food security is paramount and critical to our national development. We have become a hungry nation. We have land, we have farms, we have men, we have women, we have brains, we have the people, we have the resources, human resources, natural resources, everything. But we lack the leadership to drive these resources to fight against food insecurity or reduce the high level of hunger in Nigeria today. Now, when we talk about empowerment, how sustainable, are there sustainable measures put in place to ensure that you don't just train these women and give them some startup fund and you leave them? There should be continuity. There should be a program put in place that you monitor these women, you continue to provide mentorship for them, you continue to provide some forms of support to ensure that there is feedback. You don't just empower them and you leave them. You plant a seed, you ensure that the seed grows. You take off the weeds, you water the seed. You ensure that the seed is planted on the right soil. You don't just plant a seed and go to sleep and you come the next day expecting to harvest from the seed. The government and all stakeholders must ensure that we've heard so much of this empowerment. Most times politicians capitalize on it for political purposes. We need a human face development that will harness these people that have been trained. What plans do we have? Do we have a blueprint? Can we train 500 women on snail farming, and the next 2 years they can also train 500 other women? The development should be there should be multiplicity of such programs. In other words, we should create more empowered people. We
have programs like this. We have them in mass. I'll bring you in here. We have a lot of empowerment programs that have been on in the past, that are still going on, and there are still plans to hold more. So we're talking about the effectivity. I know that George has mentioned some of the things that should be looked at and some of the things that should be stopped when you talk about these empowerments. But we're looking at how effective they've been and how they can be more effective.
When you talk about empowerment, the first thing that comes to the mind is what are the goals and the aims of those who institute the so-called empowerment. If you don't have an aim and objective, you will achieve nothing at the end of the day. We have one of the CSOs in Nigeria is talking about follow the money. You know, Nigeria don't have a database. No apologies to that. We don't have a way of documenting our agendas, our programs, to make sure there is a follow-up. And when you look at all these empowerments, it's politically motivated. That's why I find it so laughable to talk about them. Remember, in Nigeria, we have had is it Empower? We've had trader money, which was the most shameful aspect of empowerment I've seen all my life and all the places I've been in the world. That the second citizen of the country was carrying cash. You could remember when the chopper of former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo came down, because it was stashed with cash. was going for money transfer, or what did they, trader money. Towards the tail end of campaigns of an election, we were at the eve of an election when a sitting vice president was going around the nation. What a shame. And at the end of the day, go and look at the people they say they empowered.
That's another thing that should be looked at. The people now. Are we empowering the right people?
We are not. That is what I'm saying, that it is when it is politically motivated. All these people you are seeing, before you empower somebody, an empowerment that is enduring is an empowerment that is, you know, you have aims and objectives drawn out, just like George have said. You see how to follow it up. And you don't give monies handout to people that are hungry. How much you are giving to those women? And their families are hungry. They will dip their hands into the money. So what should they be? They feed the hungry families first.
So, but you stated that we're not empowering the right people.
We are not empowering the right people.
And now you've said these people who are being empowered are hungry. So what's your definition of the right people? See,
if you look at people that were empowered, will they call an SSA to the governor to empower her? Will they call somebody that is a supervisor to empower them? They go to the rural women, and those women are those who have been privileged to have found favor in whoever is called upon by the government to fish out those people. We see in Nigeria that they say they transfer money to the most vulnerable. We have vulnerable people around us, even in my parish, as someone who participate in the clerical activities. I have people in my church.
So those
who are those people that they are empowering? Who are the vulnerable? So those vulnerable are people like when you go to the government sector, you see people they call ghost workers. Is it you and I and George that are creating the ghost workers? Who are those paying the ghost workers? So when they talk about vulnerable, why did they relieve? Is it Better Edu? Or what about
we're still trying to get who you're talking about when you say the right people now.
The right people should
are the vulnerable people.
Not even the vulnerable. Okay. Before you empower somebody for such a venture that you know that is going to snowball, is going to bring out what the society needs, you don't need to give it to people who cannot manage it. You don't need to give it on sentiment. Just like George said, the people you are going to give it, were they able to sustain it? Is it a measure of sustainability? And when the business is going down, is there a mechanism put in place that they can fall back on the government for another assistance? Or it is just a handout that, go, we have settled you. At the end of the day, you don't see the ripple effect. If you are opening a channel, and that channel is not meant to be sustainable and to bring about other people that will be trained, that will be gainfully trained. We are talking about, see, what baffles me in this country is this. People establish things like this particular governor of that state last few weeks called some youth and gave them handouts and said he has brought them into the vigilante group. That vigilante group, is there any retirement benefit in it? Is it something that you will do that will sustain people to the time that they can save money for their retirement age? Or you're not using it as a political jamboree? That is my problem.
Let me bring George in here, because George actually started that school of thought when you talk about sustaining it. Yes, I'd like to get your recommendations regarding that.
What I would say is that if you feed a man for a day, you will end up feeding him the next day, and you will create a dependency culture. What Nigerians need is not handouts. What Nigerians need is heads up. They need their head to be up. You have to first of all think about transforming their minds. Many Nigerians, when you bring empowerment projects like this and you share money for them, they see it as their own share of the national cake. And so with such mentality, most of them will not pay back the grants or the loans you give to them. It becomes difficult.
A monitoring mechanism.
Because they see that you have been in power. You've been having access to the national cake, and now you're giving them some peanuts. So they see it as their right, and then they eat up the money. So if you want to create a prosperous society, you have to first of all transform the minds of the people. And you can't transform the minds of the people if you as a leader, you are not transformed mentally. So empowerment for me does not start with the pockets. Empowerment for me starts with the mind. It is the mind that charges the pockets. So if we want to really build, now as part of the solution, if we want to build a sustainable society where we can take out people from poverty, they have not, and take them to the class of those who have. We must have to first of all work on their mindset and their mentality, transform their mind, and create a system, a structure. See, there is a structure you can put in place, you can checkmate corruption. There is a structure you can put in place, you can reduce and minimize all these misappropriation and misuse of resources. We waste a lot of resources in this country, both those in government and those in the private sector. Now, we are looking at a community. Our distinguished guests have asked a very important, critical, fundamental, intelligent question. Who are the vulnerable? We must define who are those that are vulnerable before we can talk about taking them out of vulnerability. I've working as a humanitarian, I don't like to call people vulnerable. I like to call them special people.
Of course.
Because I see them that, you know, they can be lifted out of that state of vulnerability if they realize that they can come out of it. Self-realization. That's why I talked about the mind. So if we define who the vulnerable people are, not someone that is attached to a politician or a political list of people that you want to empower, so that you can come paint a picture that you have empowered people.
I wonder how that can even be changed. Because the people who are in charge, a lot of times, the people who are supposed to make sure that these monies get to the right people are usually sometimes, reportedly, the people who would put the names of their relatives, you know, and loved ones, and say, just write, in case it's for farmers, they say, write fish farming, you write snail farming, you write piggery, and things like that. So how do we even get to stop that when the people who are in charge are allegedly the ones involved in this?
Honesty, the political will to make things right and to make the system work. You don't need a prophet. You don't need a telescope to see those people that are in need. If you walk the streets, you see some people that are going to...
I don't think they have a problem with identifying the right people.
I get you.
Yes.
Now, yes, they don't have a problem with identifying the right people that are vulnerable, but they know what they are doing, because they are trying to pursue their own political agenda.
Exactly. So how do we put a stop to that practice?
A political will to make things right.
Okay.
What they don't even realize is that if you work for the people, if you take out people from poverty, you have won yourself the admiration of the people. You can't buy love. If you can buy love, that means, you know, there will be no each crisis in the society.
Okay, let's talk about other measures that could be put in place to put a stop to this challenge I just mentioned, Ugochukwu.
You see, this challenge will be there unless the political class and the elites and those who call themselves stakeholders. You know, the name stakeholders in Nigeria are those who are privileged to be around the corridors of power, to know who in Nigeria. So, you know, when it was raining, I am in Nigeria, man no man. That is our being in Africa. And in Nigeria, it is like a syndrome. It is like a continuum in Nigeria that those people who are given in charge of those things, don't they have interest? Is the person who even want to give out the so-called empowerment, does he not have something in mind that he wants to gain at the end of the day? And those people you give it to, you have also created a job for the boys, and they will not want to, you know, give out those things without reserving their own benefit. So hence they know that it will not be monitored, and the people from ab initio, it is not meant to lift people out of poverty. So when you have that mindset that you don't want even to do something that will be very reliant and something that will be sustainable and pull people out of where they are to where you want them to be.
No.
When there is no mindset from Abiniso, how can you achieve a result?
That's
the problem.
Talking about